Hello, and welcome to another installment of A Picture is Worth 1,000 Bullets. This episode, we're going to analyze Don Troiani's 1994 piece entitled Drive Them to Washington. I hope you enjoy.
No moment in American military history ever has launched a more famous nom de guerre than the stand by Thomas J. Jackson's brigade at First Manassas on July 21, 1861. When General Barnard E. Bee sought to rally his unraveling line by gesturing toward the Virginians and shouting, "There stands Jackson like a stone wall," he christened both the general and the brigade. Stonewall Jackson and his Stonewall Brigade marched from that hilltop above Bull Run into the nation's lore. One or two revisionists, itching to be different in keeping with that familiar human impulse, later insisted that Bee really was bitterly denouncing Jackson for not coming to his aid, instead stubbornly acting like a stone wall. If so, the standard version surely was not an after-the-fact creation, because it was published across the land almost instantaneously. Furthermore, Bee would not have been narrowly, selfishly foolish to expect Jackson to abandon his firm rallying point to be fed piecemeal into a hopeless, disintegrating maelstrom. Jackson was far too committed to duty to have engaged in so frivolous a maneuver. Soon after Bee's dramatic shout, a bullet whistling toward Jackson nearly ended his career before he had the chance to become famous. "The missile struck the longest finger of my left hand," the general told his wife. "It was broken about midway between the hand and the knuckle." Another bullet hit Jackson's horse, and yet another gave his coat an ugly wound near the hip. In a typically pious passage, the newly laden Stonewall attributed his survival amidst the leaden storm to our God, to whom be all the honor, praise, and glory. Atypically, in his only strikingly boastful pronouncement during the war, Jackson admitted to his wife that his own brigade had been more instrumental than any other in repulsing the main attack. If God actually had been concerned about vectoring bullets into some bodies and away from others on that day, perhaps Jackson's own finger was one of his agents. Had the bullet not hit the hand and deflected away, might it have inflicted a grievous, perhaps even fatal, wound on the freshly minted Confederate hero. If so, no one would be naming children or high schools after Stonewall Jackson a century and a third later. William Miller Owen, 29-year-old adjutant of a Louisiana artillery battery, came upon General Jackson shortly after he had been wounded. The general had bound up the bleeding hand in his handkerchief, not having yet been able to find time for a surgeon to bandage it. The general was a very quiet, plain-looking man, Owen wrote, dressed in a blue military coat and wore the shoulder straps of a colonel in the United States Army. His cap was the old army pattern, in vogue during the Mexican War, blue cloth, flat on top. The men of the 4th Virginia Infantry, one of 5 regiments in the newly christened Stonewall Brigade, surged around their brigadier full of ardor to renew the fight and chase the Yankees. Veterans of one company of the 4th claimed that they launched the first battlefield rendition of the renowned Rebel Yell at Manassas. One of them wrote that Jackson ordered the 4th to charge and drive them to Washington. An officer who saw the regiment's drummer furiously beating the rally, but with his back to the enemy, remonstrated with the musician about his peculiar posture. "Do you suppose I want the Yankees to shoot a hole through my new brass drum?" the boy replied. Numbers of the 4th Virginia soldiers were Jackson's fellow townsmen from Lexington. 3 bullets hit one of them, 19-year-old William A. Anderson. One lodged in the sole of a boot, another crashed into his chest, but did not penetrate a pocketbook. The third shattered a kneecap. Anderson resisted attempts to amputate the limb and survived the battle by nearly 60 years. To him fell the honor of speaking at the laying of the cornerstone of the equestrian statue of Stonewall Jackson in Richmond. Anderson hearkened back to the bloody 21st of July, 1861, but spoke not of the agony he had suffered, but instead of the appearance of the general in battle. There was in Stonewall's presence, his personality, and his bearing, Anderson recalled, a lighting up of his countenance with a glorious enthusiasm that seemed to almost transfigure his usually placid features, which inspired soldiers with something of his own heroic and indomitable purpose to triumph. That legacy of First Manassas carried Stonewall Jackson and the Stonewall Brigade through the 2 succeeding years, a period that witnessed some of the most famous events in all of American history. This certificate of authenticity was written by Robert K. Crick, Robert Crick is a leading authority on the campaigns and personnel of the Army of Northern Virginia. He is a prolific speaker and author of those subjects, having produced more than 30 books, pamphlets, and articles. Among the most familiar titles are Lee's Colonels, a biographical register of the field officers of the Army of Northern Virginia, Parker's Virginia Battery, CSA, Stonewall Jackson at Cedar Mountain, and volumes in the Virginia Regimental History series on the 9th Virginia Cavalry and the 30th Virginia Infantry.
So this painting depicts some of the fighting on Henry House Hill during the Battle of First Manassas, otherwise known as First Bull Run. It takes place during the pinnacle of the fighting when Union troops have just pushed back two Confederate regiments, the 33rd and 2nd Virginia, and they're threatening the flank of the Confederate artillery battery, depicted in the rear of this image. The artillery position on Henry Hill for the Confederacy was their center of gravity. It was from here where they were able to mass firepower against approaching Union infantry and artillery. So if they lost this position, it would definitely hurt them severely during the contest. So it was critical for General Thomas Jackson to hold this position. So with his left flank crumbling, he takes the 4th and 27th Virginia, orients them towards the direction of the approaching Union forces, and launches a very devastating, successful counterattack, which pushes them back, also secures the Federal guns, and really changes the trajectory of the fight on Henry Hill and switches the inertia away from the Union forces to Confederates. So I love what this image does. You can see the artillery in the background. Again, that's the Confederate center of gravity. You have here the battle flags of the 4th and 27th Virginia, who are the units responsible for launching this counterattack. General Jackson, who, as the certificate of authenticity notes, is wearing his blue uniform, also has his hand bandaged from his wound earlier. So that's a nice little detail you can see there in the corner of this painting right here. Also love how this painting shows the really early stages of Civil War uniforms. A lot of the individuals in this are wearing civilian shirts. You don't see a lot of Confederate jackets. You see no uniformity whatsoever, which really adds to the chaos and confusion that went on during the first Battle of Bull Run, where in fact a lot of the uniforms you see, or lack of uniforms you see, mirror a lot of what some of the Union opponents were wearing, which created a lot of friendly fire incidents, a lot of chaos and confusion. It's a very excellent detail. I love how you also get a sense of Stonewall Jackson's quiet resolve. He's not out there running around with his sword in his hand. He had a very strong, quiet presence that a lot of Confederate soldiers picked up on. And you can feel the weight of this moment as depicted by Don Troiani in this painting. If you're interested in adding this piece to your collection, unfortunately it's not available in the open market. You have to find it in private sales on eBay, Facebook Marketplace, etc. So if you're looking for it, good luck. It's definitely worth an addition to your collection. Thank you very much for watching this episode of A Picture is Worth 1,000 Bullets. If you're interested in helping us further, please like, comment, subscribe, or even go check out our Patreon account. Really, any bit you can do helps so much. So thank you very much, and have a good one, y'all.